Hey, it's Kevin with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. And on today's episode, I am going to be joined by Ben Hull, who is the Director of Sales at Item America. And Item, if you're not familiar, in my opinion, it's kind of like an erector set for the shop floor and the warehouse and manufacturing environments. All these kind of modular and different pieces you can put together to do some really creative things. And I've seen some really interesting videos on some of the solutions that have been put together with these pieces. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and talk a little bit about, in my opinion, a little bit of a continuous improvement nerd's dream to play around with some of this stuff. So we're going to talk about what they have available, how they bring modularity to that floor level, and also some of the use cases that they're seeing out there and how their product line has kind of expanded over the years. So Ben, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate you having me on.
Definitely happy to get you on here and happy to talk about this. As I said, I've seen your stuff, saw it in person at Automate actually earlier this year, and then have seen videos of kind of the different use cases and solutions you put together. Super interesting. So really interested to hear more about Item here today. So for people that aren't familiar, I mean, I've given my kind of take on what Item is, but you can probably give a better explanation. So why don't you give us kind of a brief overview of Item and what it is that you all do?
Yeah, so I kind of think you hit the nail on the head a little bit when in the simplest way of describing, a rector set, or
Mhm.
we like to call it, sometimes industrial Legos.
Oh, I like
That's
that.
that's
Yeah.
that's really the premise behind the system, in that you're taking T-slot aluminum extrusion that allows for custom design builds,
Mm,
for a variety of different solution types. And so really it starts with an idea, it starts with a thought, and then we just allow somebody to have the different products available to then create that idea into reality.
mm.
And so, you know, obviously you can see, ITEM. It's pretty
Yeah.
basic for a name. Most people do refer to us as Item in the US, but my German colleagues, as a German company, would be remiss if I didn't say Edam. So that's
Edom.
actually
Okay.
how we would normally say is Edam. But a little history on the company. We are a German company. We are a direct subsidiary of that company here in the US with two locations. But really, the company got started based on our two founders actually being machine builders. And so they
Interesting. Okay.
started the company back in '76 with the premise to do custom machine building for
Mm,
their clients and for their customers. And, during that time, like many in the industry, they were doing most things in welding, fabrication, tedious process, but it could be done to create these solutions. And they thought to themselves, hey, we'd love to find a better way to do, some parts of this process. And so at that time is when they created the idea of the first aluminum profile.
mm.
And so they created the die, the shape that could then allow for aluminum to be pressed through to create that end shape. And really, ultimately, it was just for themselves. It's just,
Sure.
hey, we want to be able to do this more efficiently, more productively. And but like many things, they start using it, people start seeing it, the
Yeah.
interest starts to build. Where did you get this? Where can we get this? And being the geniuses that they were, they said, hey, let's shift out of this machine building and let's focus on this product commodity that we've created, this innovation, and see what we can do from there. And really, that started about the early '80s, and
Mm.
since has been going on. And next year we actually celebrate our 50th anniversary.
Oh wow. All right. Congratulations on that. And yeah, I think it's super interesting when that kind of innovation just happens just out of almost like necessity, right? Or just the desire to make like one's own work better, right? And now it becomes this product, right? And this company that's now stand the test of time of 50 years, right? And so super interesting there. So tell us a little bit, because you mentioned they've figured out a way to create this kind of shape, and most of your stuff I think is aluminum, correct? So tell us a little bit about that kind of shape and what makes that unique, and how does that make that so kind of flexible in a sense?
Yeah, so really it starts with, and then within the shape, there's some different things. I mean, at the basic, if you look at the end of an aluminum extrusion profile, it looks pretty
Hmm.
basic. You have four grooves that you can see, all are within the same width. So it allows for the T slot fastener to go into the groove. So then you can tighten down to create your joints. And then you're creating those 90-degree joints there. So the big thing there is you can do different widths, you can do, differences in that area, which is where kind of like, competitors, we separate each other, a little bit
Hmm.
different, of course.
Sure.
But the simplicity in that allows for, really, it's basically the profile, however long it is. Now it's just cut down to size, to the
Mm.
size you need it. And then now you have the fasteners or different components that just allow you to push together, almost as simple as, taking Lego blocks and
Hmm.
pushing them together. And now you have that connection. So that's really at the basic side of it. If you've had anybody on or talked to anybody that does any kind of extruding,
Mm.
that process, it really starts with the die, which then
Okay.
allows for that shape to be created. And
Mm.
so, depending on what materials you're wanting to use as you push through there, it could create a variety of, material needs. It could create a variety of, like I said, shapes, strength, just different formatting that you can do. So
Mm.
that's really, and again, it starts at a very basic premise. It's something that was what it was founded on, was to be able to, hey, we don't want to have to weld, take two
Yeah.
pieces and add process. So, like you said, continuous improvement. Hey, we want to
Yeah.
eliminate extra steps
Sure.
if we can in the process, and this is what allows us to do that.
Yeah, absolutely, and interesting to hear how it's kind of made there, we think about it. I mean, I think there's probably two words that come to mind the most when I think about your products and your solution, which is the modularity and kind of flexibility, right? The ability to kind of build different things with the same type of pieces and figure out different ways to utilize them. So tell us a little bit about like why is that modularity so important when it comes to the floor and the operations, whether it's in a manufacturing or a warehouse environment? Why is it important to have that modularity in that environment?
Well, I think it starts also with some of the process and mentality changes that we've
Mm.
seen in these different environments. It's not about just a flat tabletop.
Mm.
Somebody now is thinking more from an ergonomic standpoint. I have employees that are different heights, so I need this to be flexible and adjustable for that work surface, that tabletop that they're doing. This cart, we don't want just a flat tray, because that collects. That's the beauty of a standard cart.
Mm.
Everything will find its way onto that cart, and most people are
Mm.
looking to, reduce that kind of waste, reduce that kind of clutter. And so, what this system allows is really that custom need. What exactly do you need? What do you need that cart to carry? And create that cart so it can solely carry and support that initiative that you're trying to create. So it creates that ability where, everything has its place. It keeps for a very clean, lean environment.
Mm.
And, the other side of it is things change.
Mm.
And with a system like this, you can, instead of having to scrap the whole project, you could adjust it. You might be able to make some small adaptations or some small, modifications to the structure, and now you can still use it, even with needing to pivot to a different direction.
Mm. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's such a important thing and a key thing you said there, like the needs kind of change over time, right? You want to be able to adjust some of that and, certain operations versus, like operation A versus operation B has, different nuances and different product types and things that they may be utilizing or special projects that they want to switch things up for. And I think that's really convenient to be able to do that. So tell us a little bit about like, from your product standpoint, I mean, how does that work, right? Is it are there like set kits that are sold to make this? Because I know at Automate, I saw like obviously you had the product in the booth, and there were some different arrangements and things that it's being utilized for. It is it like sold in like a predetermined kit, or is it like loose pieces and it's up to the user to get creative and figure out how they want to use it? How does that work?
So we really give multiple options.
Mm,
At the very basic level, we can just sell the components. So really, it's just, you have the parts, you can just order the pieces, we'll pull it, pack it, ship it, and you're really then taking on from there. So if you need to cut the different pieces to length, you can do it. If there's any machining you want to do, and then how you're creating the assembly. So we can do it at the very basic level, like that,
mm,
like, jumping on our website and being able to just select parts, put it in the cart, and hey, it's shipping to you. The other two options, though, as you were kind of touching on, alluding to like kits or
mm,
assembled solutions, that's always centered around a design idea. So, we do have the ability where clients might come to us where they need some support in designing. We have in-house engineering that can do that, but or a customer might already have the design that they've created.
mm,
Within some type of CAD system, or they maybe have even gone on and used our designing tool that's available on our website as well. And really then we have an idea, so we have a design, the customer knows or has this idea of what they want to create, and it's really providing options. So
mm,
maybe they're crunched on time, and so it's like, hey, I'd rather get this as a kit, so we're going to go ahead and do the prep work side. We're going to go ahead and cut the profiles to length, any machining, any specialties like that, maybe getting panels cut, we'll go ahead and get that prepped, we'll grab the other materials, ship it to the client. Now it's just they just need to assemble it. They have the instructions, they can go ahead and assemble it, and now they have it ready to use. And then we have other clients, either that's just not a possibility for them. Maybe they're extremely busy or they just would like to have that added service. Then we'll just offer to assemble it. And so we'll go ahead for a service fee, we'll assemble it, and now it can ship directly to the customer, fully assembled, hits their dock. Hey, I can start using it today. So it's
mm,
really about providing options. We have a lot of clients that prefer to have full in-house control. So, like I said, there's the typical ones that might just order the materials that they need, and then they can just use it as they need. But then we have other ones that, like you said, that those
mm.
types of options, and that kind of allows them for. Again, I like to reference the Lego side. If anybody's old enough to remember, Legos, it used to just be you got one block, it was
Yeah.
yellow, and you had to be creative.
Yeah.
That was the basics of what it was. And now today you can get an entire set of thousands of pieces that
Yeah.
you're, building the Death Star. It's crazy on how crazy that is. But in the
Mm,
sense, it's also a little bit like what we're doing, where you have a very basic level where it's got to be really creative in what you're trying to create. And then you kind of almost have a predetermined
mm,
version where it's like, hey, that's a great idea. That's exactly what I want to build. And so that's some of what we also have, where it's pre-designed solutions, examples that somebody might say, that's exactly what I want. I just want to build it myself then.
mm.
So everything is kind of taken out of and already prepared and ready. So it's kind of fun how those two seem to correlate in the advancement over the years.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, it's interesting, and yeah, it is very interesting because I mean, my son is in the Legos, and he's gotten some crazy sets recently, and it's very interesting to see like that evolution, like you said. And I can imagine like the more people get exposure to your product, right? The more different kind of iterations and designs are come up with as like different minds look at this and see different things. I'm curious about that. I mean, what are some of the kind of like warehouse specific use cases that you've seen your products being utilized for?
So in the warehouse side, one of the kind of the starting ways is, of course, you have a lot of conveyance a lot of times running through
Yeah,
warehouses, and and I'm sure you've been in plenty of them where
sure. Yeah.
those conveyors can run for a long way. And if it's more of a ground level one, it might take you a nice long trip to walk around to get to wherever you can to cross over or have your access. And so one of the things we have is we have platform systems where we can actually take the profile, create a custom platform that might be a crossover
Mm,
or maybe a step up to doing preloading into machines. So it's one where that allows for easy flexibility where it's not a welded steel. So if it needed to be changed or modified, it could. But it allowed customers in that industry to have just some flexibility. Hey, I'd love to be able to cross over here and not walk, an extra
mm,
1,000 steps to have to get to there. So that was one area. But more recently, and of course, this is obviously a popular topic, is the side of robotics. And of course,
Mm,
AMRs and, is a very big, autonomous mobile robots is a very big
sure.
topic for the warehouse industry, whether it's, moving material of more or less like, say, carts or racks, or it's the autonomous forklifts or whatever it might be. It's a very big topic. But for the mobile robots that are really just the kind of standard, it's not a forklift, it's not anything else. That then brings in the dynamic of what's the rack or what is the top module that these are going to transport around the facility to move the product that the client needs to be moved. And of course, everybody, different boxes, shapes, sizes, weights, you name it,
Mm,
nothing is all the same. And so that creates the dynamic of a custom need.
mm,
And these groups that are coming out with this amazing technology on the robotic side, they're focused in that area, and they're not, custom design builders when it comes to the racks and the
yeah.
carts. And this is kind of where we fit in, and where we can take, that selection of what a customer says, hey, I'm going to use this brand or this model. Here's what I'm trying to move, or here's what I need the capabilities of this rack to be able to do. And that's where we can step in and help either with the design process or creating that actual solution that then can work with their AMR and start to be able to move that material around the facility.
Mm. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a great use case because it is, I mean, a lot of AMRs are very just, standard and just like essentially a platform, right? And then it's kind
Mhm.
of like, well, what are you going to put on top of it and how are you going to move it? And that uniqueness of product in some scenarios, I can imagine, the modularity of building a cart, just specific to like your products that you're trying to move, I think can make a really interesting difference and make a better improvement. And I can imagine too, I mean, maybe you can, share some information on this, but, I imagine having that more flexibility and modularity to build a cart how you need it in some scenarios, I can imagine you can probably get much more product onto the AMR than if you were buying just some standardized cart that's being sold, right?
Yeah, because then again, you're getting it to the shape and needs that you want. And
Mm-hmm.
another part that most people don't consider is, again, we're talking about aluminum. Aluminum's
Yeah.
lighter than steel. And if you can reduce the overall weight of your rack structure, your top module structure, well, you've added the ability to then put more weight on that structure then. So you can move more product that way versus if the structure is, X number of pounds, your load capacity is only, so much with the AMR. Well, that also reduces the amount of product that you might be able to fit on that rack. You might have the space to be able to do it,
Mm-hmm.
but to give it the load capacity, you might not be able to do it. So you can do that. And then the other side of it is just even when the rack is empty, again, the overall structure is lighter,
Mm.
and so your runtime and your battery length extends on those AMRs. So it's not needing to go
Oh,
back
you're
to
right.
dock as quickly as it would if it was carrying around a heavier structure, even empty. So
Mm.
these are just some of the things that we're seeing and where we have success working with clients in this field.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and that's great to call out too and point out, and extending that battery life, right? I mean, I guess that's like a dividend that didn't even think about that could be potential there. So I think that's a really great benefit to call out. And what about in terms of because I when I see the product, I'm like I think about people potentially building out like a custom or kind of unique packing station. Do you see that utilized for that at all?
Oh yes, yes. Again, custom needs. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
again, you could go find a off the shelf type of, packing station or quality check type
Mm-hmm.
of table. But again, most times everybody does something a little bit different, whether their
Mm.
process is different, whether the tools that the employee needs or the equipment that they need in that area to be able to do. And one of the other things that we focus on and with some of our products that we offer, especially for this, like a packing station. Um, we talk ergonomics about, everybody thinks first thing is like height adjustability. Where's
Mm,
that,
sure.
where's that, tabletop to the height of it. But it's also even in ergonomics though of like overextending. If somebody
Mm-hmm.
has to really reach to grab that tape gun or to grab that extra box every, however many times a day, that's overextension, and that's putting wear and tear on the employee. So creating products or also creating custom design that actually brings the material closer in within a golden reach area
Hmm.
is also a key area of thinking about how something's designed. How is it meeting the needs of what you're doing? And so that's where, take one of our products is a double pivot arm, where
Hmm.
you might be able to have like some of your basic tools, like, the tape gun, maybe a marker or other things that you might typically need, but you could have this here. I can get my tool, but then I can just push it out of the way so I can actually do my process of loading in a box or doing whatever. And now when I'm done, now I could bring that in if I need another tool. Hey, it's easy. It's here within a good reach area versus me overextending constantly throughout a day.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that's a great point, and I think it's so interesting to see that because I mean I've managed teams in warehouses before, and there's so many different heights and sizes of people out there, right? And it is like, how do you make it comfortable for all of them? Because you have someone's using this station on the first shift, and then this person's using the same station on second shift, but this person is 5 feet tall and this person is 6'2", right? So like, how do you make that adjustment, and how do you create that kind of flexibility within the same station for multiple users to be comfortable, right? And to have those ergonomics that you're talking about, I think is really important to do. So interesting to hear kind of that application of the product there. I'm curious, what is like the most interesting or creative use of your product that you've seen?
Oh, that is a great question because
I mean, you've seen a
I've
lot,
seen,
I'm sure.
yeah, we've seen a lot. I mean, again, some of it just size and scope is interesting. I mean, I'm and not to take away from our clients' ideas of what they've used,
Hmm.
but if you walk into our facility in Maryland
Mm.
and go down to our operational floor, one of the things you'll see is a raised office
Mm.
that actually our head of production and warehouse and quality share this office, and it's made out of all of our product. So again, you
Really?
think of
Oh
aluminum
wow.
extrusion
Yeah.
but you walk down and you see this raised office, like, oh, well, that can't be theirs. And it actually is. It's our product.
Really interesting.
That creates that. So I mean, that's kind of some of the things that kind of a little bit of an all factor
Mm.
with some of the clients. We did one a demonstration before where we were showing more of our linear slide products, and we created just kind of this ground level type of base, and but we set a car engine on top
Mm.
of it and mounted it. And really, the goal was to show how easy it was that you could actually go up by hand and just move this and slide this around this
Oh
engine
wow.
block around to show not only the strength and capabilities of aluminum, to kind of get away from the stereotypes that it's not strong enough, but
Hmm.
also to show that the quality of the product that we offer, and being able to maneuver that. So those are just kind of some creative ideas from a customer standpoint. Oh man, that's just going to be one where I tell you what, there is one.
Mm.
And if you've seen, we've shared it a couple times, and I'm sure they would love the pub. So there's a company called Area 2 Farms.
Okay.
They are kind of like doing urban farming. They
Oh, okay.
created an entire structure out of our product that is really about kind of 20-foot wide, 20-foot deep, 20-foot high structure that they're indoor growing
Mm.
plants with. And
Oh, wow.
it's probably one of the kind of the craziest, largest structures that I've seen a client that had an idea and was able to create with it. So that
Mm.
that that one's an impressive one for sure. So if anybody ever wants to look up, check out Area 2 Farms.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll put a link to that in the blog post with this episode. But I think super interesting to hear that. And it's super interesting to hear the raised office. That's like
Mhm.
something I would not have thought about doing with your product. And it's right in Maryland. I gotta stop by sometime and check that out and see what you all are up to down there. But really interesting, some of the use cases here, and the flexibility and the modularity that you create here. So uh, now tell us a little bit, like, how does the product line kind of continue to grow and evolve over time? You mentioned, it's the 50th anniversary for you
Mhm.
all, right? So how has that product line grown, and how do you kind of recognize how to add something to it, or how to evolve it over time?
Yeah, that's the great part of the our company and what's always been a focus, which is the innovation side.
Hmm.
And we've always maintained that. And starting at the basics, back when they first started, you were talking one or two profile kind of shapes and sizes and a couple fasteners, and that was the extent of it. But really, what it just continued to grow was out of necessity, but also clearly out of customer feedback. The goal, and again, just to go back to kind of what you said in the beginning of the episode about continuous improvement.
Mm-hmm.
That is a big driver in it, in that when we would see a client or a customer, needing to do things outside of, to create this final solution, meaning that, hey, there's not a product that you have, so I kind of have to rig something or kind of do some kind of extra things here to create kind of exactly what I want. And that creates the idea of, well, what if there was a product that you didn't have to do these extra things for, that you just had that product available, you could put that together, boom, it's done.
Hmm.
Again, thinking in the advancement of Legos, you had like two block sizes and one color, and that was it. And now today, you have shapes and sizes. You got creative individuals that are almost running like automated production lines with Legos,
Yeah.
as examples. But that's because there's just constantly this creation to say there's a need,
Mm-hmm.
and it's because somebody has already had the idea. And then, of course, with our motto, "Your ideas are worth it." That's where it all begins. So somebody had
Okay.
an idea. They didn't have exactly what they needed to create that idea, so they figured ways around it, as we normally do. But that's where we see that and say, wow, what if we created or added that product, or
Mm-hmm.
something that did that, to fit that need of that client. Now they wouldn't have to do those extra steps or have to use those extra pieces to create the same function that they're looking to do. And so that's one way that continues to drive the innovation. The other side of it is that we've started to fall into different industries as well. It's one where we may have not targeted something, but it's because industries have said, hey, no, we can work with your product, and actually it would be a great fit for here. One of the big ones is right now is we're starting to do more products that are centered around clean room applications,
Okay.
and so big in semiconductor and industries like that. And so that drives even more products. Okay, hey, we have a basic line of this, and oh, but we really should add something like this because the clients, our customer feedback, and the information we're getting say they would really benefit from something like this. So that's part of it. Again, trying to keep up with technology as well, with robotics. And as we talked about with AMRs, every AMR is a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
The way the vision systems are done, the way that the guiding is being done, so that makes it where if you're creating a cart that this is going to maneuver around a facility, unless you just have it sitting on right top, you may have to design the support structures if it's going to be on casters in a certain orientation so it can work with that robot, not impede its technology to maneuver around. And so that creates future ideas. Oh, hey, we should
Mm-hmm.
have a product that could do this. So, between innovation, industry change, technology, these are all things that continue to drive us to look for the next products that we need to create to be able to offer and put into the market.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that. I think it's, I mean, it goes back to kind of even the ethos of how the company started, right? It's just like, I'm just looking for something better to do my own work, and you're recognizing that within your users and your customers, and how to be able to do that. And I do want to touch on too. I saw that 2025 was your largest sales year in the U.S. in the last 18 years, right? So you're director of sales, so we got to give you your kudos and your flowers for that. So congratulations on that. But I'm curious, what does that kind of indicate to you in the market? Like, what do you think is telling you, that is telling us about the market, and why do you think that is that in 2025 it was so big?
Well, so a couple things. One was we just actually even had a shift, just a business strategy shift
Hmm.
of, instead of being just sole distribution, we actually do kind of a hybrid of direct selling as well as through value add distributors. So that was one part that changed the dynamic there. But the other side of it is, the U.S. catching up and how they see the usage of aluminum extrusion or modular building kit systems and how they can use those in their industry and the benefits that come from that. And
Mm,
with that, it's creating more of a dynamic of, instead of just, hey, I see it all a pre-done design off the shelf, I just buy it. Okay, it's cheaper, I get it. We put it in the facility. It meets basic needs, but it really doesn't
mhm,
ever fit the true intention of why we made the purchase anyway. And so now more people are, focused on having the exact right solution for what they need. And a lot of industry changing. There's different pivots that are happening as well right now. And a lot of people, from the different issues from COVID,
mhm,
through where supply chain is such a bigger concern. Now the reshoring or more companies coming to the US to have operations here that maybe they never had anything here before, but they were familiar with EDM and what we did in another country or supported
mhm,
groups. So they want to continue that relationship. So I think there's a multitude of factors that have done that. Um, but ultimately, it comes down to the people that are part of our team
mm.
and getting out in front of people and different clients and different industries and letting them know who we are and what's possible, what's available, so they at least have the options to make a business decision that fits them best.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, and that's great to hear, and definitely, congratulations to you all on that successful year. And very interesting to hear about the products and kind of the use cases here, and how you're creating some of that modularity and flexibility for operations to get the solutions that they need and the right fits, and also creating some of that comfort and ergonomic level as well for the users themselves that are interacting with it on a daily basis. So really appreciate you joining me here on the show, Ben, and telling us all about what Edom is doing and the products there. So if people are interested in checking out your products or learning a little more, what's the best way to do that?
Best way is to jump on our website at item or Edom, ITEM, the number two, the number 4.com. Come check us out. Again, you're going to see a slew of a variety of our different products that fit different industries, different application types. You can also see some of our pre-configured designs, so it might give you ideas or future thought. And hey, if you're a junkie like kind of me, and as you said, Kevin, you probably like to get on there and play around with the products and start
Yeah.
designing it just to see what you could do with it. So, of course, tools like that are available. And of course, if you would want to learn more, you can always hit the inquiry button on the website. We'd be happy to talk to you in person.
All right, fantastic. And we'll definitely put all that information at thenewwarehouse.com as well as in the show notes here. So, Ben, thank you once again for your time on the show today.
All right, Kevin, I appreciate it. Thanks you for all your good work and continue help bringing out the information to the network.
Absolutely. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's video here on our YouTube channel, The New Warehouse Podcast, and I appreciate you tuning in. If you liked what you saw, make sure you subscribe to our channel, and if you like this video in particular, make sure you like it as well. And if you want to get this great t-shirt that you see in the video behind me, Warehouses Are Sexy, head to warehousesaresexy.com and get your own.